What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. And there is a ton of stuff to talk about at the moment, and still buzzing from arguably our best performance all season, a 2-0 away win at St James's Park. I was absolutely fearful of that game, and well, Arteta's masterclass was that midfield. Putting Jorginho in and keeping him in for the game at St James's Park. It's unthinkable a year ago that Thomas Partey could be dropped on form. He was so important to us, a talisman almost. So that decision really paid dividends. And when you looked at the midfield with Granit Xhaka, Jorginho and Odegaard, I think it's got a fantastic balance of intelligence, experience, hard work, physicality, flair, creativity. But it seems almost impossible to conceive of any one of those three being dropped on form alone for the last three games. The next game, Brighton at home. And what a freakish set of results the weekend delivered all round. Particularly now talking about the fact that Brighton, who have been immense all season, have done a fantastic job, really fighting as hard as they could to get towards those Champions League places. At home to Everton, foregone conclusion, couldn't see anything but comfortable Brighton win, and they got turned over 5-1. Now, it's got to have been the most one-sided 5-1 defeat I've ever seen. Most of that game was played in and around the Everton box, but they broke brilliantly, and of course Brighton picked up a few injuries. I really don't have time to go into that in this video because I really want to get to the heart of it, but I'm going to do a separate video talking about, I suppose the crux of the issue is, on the surface, what a brilliant time for us to be playing Brighton. They just got tanked 5-1. They come to the Emirates this weekend, and surely what a great time to play them. Or is it? Meanwhile, Everton have found some form, and they are hosting Man City this weekend. So could it be that Everton, rejuvenated, found, under Sean Dyche, have found their form and are going to really put up a tough game for Man City, who don't travel well? They are not doing as well on their travels. People don't seem to be talking about it. 1-1 against Leipzig, 1-1 against Real Madrid last night. Fantastic goal by Kevin De Bruyne. And it is, of course, delicately poised, that game. The second leg will follow the Everton game. So, look, there is a lot of reason to speculate that Everton may get a draw. And, of course, we do need Man City to drop points in two games. Could this be the weekend? Could we take on a Brighton who have suffered a couple of injuries now? It looks like Solly March is going to be out with a hamstring. Could this be the perfect time to play Brighton? Or alternatively, are Everton, now that they're safe, going to be a walkover for Man City, and Brighton, with their needing to fight back after what is a totally uncharacteristic and very disappointing performance? Could it be the worst time to play them? We don't know. We'll get to that in the next couple of days, and there's a lot to look forward to. Most importantly, though, as an Arsenal fan, we are still in this. It is still there. We may need to drop points, but they may do. And we are, I think, looking like we're going to take 9 points from the remaining 9 games. So, what do I want to talk about? Well, there's a couple of things that came out in the last couple of days. One of them was, came out of nowhere, as these things often seem to, which is that Granit Xhaka apparently wants to leave. Apparently, he and his wife have decided they want to go to Germany, and Xabi Alonso at Bayer Leverkusen has earmarked Granit Xhaka is exactly the right kind of player for him. Now, that is a report from The Sun that came out yesterday or the day before yesterday. And like all of these reports, is no way to corroborate it. But I will say some things in mitigation. First and foremost, Xabi Alonso, for the last week or so, has been strongly linked with a move away from Bayer Leverkusen to Tottenham. So perhaps that's true, perhaps it isn't. Nagelsmann, as I understand it, is back to favourite at Tottenham, and that seems to be the manager they want. But Xabi Alonso is being considered. Now, if he's looking around to manage other clubs and is apparently interested, then is he really looking to bring Granit Xhaka to Bayer Leverkusen and then go the other way himself? Obviously, I don't think he's taking Granit Xhaka to Tottenham if he goes there. But the main thing with this for me is, look, I can well understand that Granit Xhaka, who's been in London now for 6 or 7 years, I can well understand that Granit Xhaka and his family might want to go back to Germany. But does it make sense to do that the very year you're guaranteed European Champions League football? I think for a footballer's career, Champions League is so important, and he has been an integral part of the Arteta process. And I feel that the speculation is kind of unfounded. And again, not many sources reporting this. But on the contrary, it has been reported that Arteta is absolutely not prepared to let Granit Xhaka go. Now, a couple of weeks ago, to me, it looked like there might have been a falling out between Granit Xhaka and Mikel Arteta. And that was why I was so pleased to see him back in the side, and why, the speculation before the Newcastle game was it might be Xhaka that makes way for Jorginho, but the Jorginho looked like he was coming in. I'm really thrilled it's Thomas Partey. I actually think Thomas Partey is more likely to leave in the summer. But all of this is speculation around players who might be leaving in the summer. Our midfield, even if nobody leaves, we definitely need a couple of additions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at the 8 midfielders that we've most often been linked with. This represents the 8 players, one of whom or 2 of whom is certainly most likely to come to Arsenal this summer. Now, there's always something coming out of nowhere with Arsenal, and so I can't speculate on all the players who might come, but these for me are the 8 players that there is the most speculation around, and I've done them in reverse order, something like an old-fashioned pop chart. I don't know if they still do that. I'm showing my age a little bit. But in reverse order of the 8 midfielders that have been most often speculated to be coming to Arsenal, and 8th, because it's the one I think is least likely to happen, and I'm sad about that, I truly am, is Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham is number 8. Now, the reason, because everyone in his dog wants Jude Bellingham at the moment. Liverpool had to pull out because they couldn't match the amounts being talked about. Obviously, there are teams out there. I'm thinking of the Newcastles, I'm thinking of the Man Cities, and I'm obviously thinking about Real Madrid. Florentino Perez, Real Madrid chairman, has now, it seems, secured the signing of Jude Bellingham. And that'll be great news for Real Madrid fans because they started to get used to losing out to Man City. They were after Erling Haaland and didn't get him. And on the performance last night where Rudiger had Haaland in his pocket, maybe they're not so disappointed about that. Although that said, there is still speculation that although he only signed for City last season and he's on an apparent £850,000 a week, that he might still be going to Real Madrid and they might be scooping him up again. But the Jude Bellingham, bookies have made this an odds-on now. Apparently it's just the fine details. Dortmund will be capitalising on Jude Bellingham somewhere in a region of 120 to 130 million with add-ons that will exceed that. And what I read with interest, and this is like an idea of how far out of the scale we are in terms of, I think we could probably afford his salary at 300,000 to 400,000 speculated. But what I really found amusing was Jude Bellingham's father, who's apparently undertaking the contract negotiations, has agreed with Florentino Perez that there should be a buyout clause in there. There should be a clause in there in case another team wants to come out. And the amount of that clause, the release clause, is $1 billion. So what you think of that, let me know in the comments. But $1 billion release clause. Do I think there is a team out there that is going to flout all the financial fair play and go, yeah, we'll give you $1 billion for a player? I don't think we're close to $1 billion player yet. But when you think that Real Madrid's state-of-the-art new stadium, and apparently is going to be an absolutely wonderful stadium, that cost $900 million. Jude Bellingham's apparently negotiating that, It's a crazy world we live in. I don't think it's quite that crazy yet. But Jude Bellingham, sadly, is on this list at number 8. I don't think there was any real speculation he was going to be joining Arsenal. At best, we were 28 to 1 to land him. I'm gutted about it, though, because at 130 million, I think he's worth it. And I think, hopefully, if we've got billionaire owners, they should be putting in. But they're not going to. At number 7 is Zubimendi. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, and the reason, really simple, I did a video about this last Friday. If you're really interested in why I don't think Zubimendi is coming to Arsenal, although he does keep popping up, is key things. First of all, he's too expensive, too inexperienced. I don't think he really would come in and be a starting player for us. I don't know him that well. Please feel free to disagree with me. But at the sort of 50 million price tag that's being mooted, particularly in light of the fact that in January he wasn't that interested in coming to Arsenal, we were looking at him before we signed Jorginho. And how pleased are we all now that we signed Jorginho? And do some of you watching this owe Jorginho an apology? Perhaps. Anyway, moving on. Number 6 on this list, and there's another one that I'm really disappointed is so far down this list because this is a no-brainer for me. He's 32 years old. He's apparently coming to the end of his contract with Chelsea. N'Golo Kante. N'Golo Kante is a free transfer this summer. Surely it makes sense to go out and get him. He is still as good as he ever was. He's had a bad couple of seasons for injury, but if that's behind him and a free transfer, it would be mad not to sign N'Golo Kante. Unfortunately, it does seem that the reports are that he would like to stay at Chelsea. Now, Pochettino is odds-on favourite to take that job, and again, the rumours and apparent he wants to keep Kante because he's not a stupid person, and of course he would. So, unfortunately, that no longer looks like happening, although if I'd done this video last week, it was right up there, and the speculation was that he was really keen to come to London. Why anyone would want to stay at Chelsea right now is a mystery to me, but I think he's the kind of guy that could see Pochettino come in and be part of that transformation, and they are going to be better next season. At number 5, so we're getting into the top 5. It's getting interesting now. At number 5, Youri Tielemans. Now, for the last 2 seasons, or for every transfer window that I can remember for the last 2 or 3 years, Youri Tielemans. He's actually a free agent this summer. But it almost feels like the interest from our side has completely cooled in him. He would certainly be somebody that came into that Granit Xhaka position. So if Granit Xhaka is on his way to join Xabi Alonso in Bayer Leverkusen, if there is any truth to that, yeah, he would fit into that. But all of the other speculation has been around Emile Smith-Rowe being groomed for that position. So as an understudy to Granit Xhaka, we kind of already have that. He isn't the kind of ball-winning, destroying defensive midfielder that I think we're really in the market for, because that's the position we really need to augment. But it's Youri Tielemans. There's obviously been a lot of interest in him, and if he's not going to cost you anything, perhaps that is a kind of deal. I think there's a more concrete rumours linking Youri Tielemans with Newcastle, and I think that may be more likely to happen. At number 4, this one called as well, and it's Mason Mount. Now, again, very much in that Granit Xhaka position, he is a Champions League winning young midfielder, bags of talent, carries the ball well, goal involvements outstanding. Arguably one of the best on this list we'll go through. But again, there are teams out there at the moment that have to do some serious rebuilding. Man City look like they're going to be losing Bernardo Silva and Ilkay Gundogan. Liverpool obviously need to complete refit of their midfield. So this summer, midfielders are going to be the priority for at least those 3 teams, us and those 2 teams. And Newcastle as well will be in the market. So Mason Mount, it seems like we flirted with the idea of bringing him. I would love to see him come to Arsenal, but it seems like Liverpool have got there. And the other news here is that Todd Boehly, eccentric billionaire, can't do anything right at the moment. But one of the things he has apparently set his heart on is keeping Mason Mount. Now, it's not really that simple for Chelsea. They have got to move some players on, and Mason Mount would go for around 70, 80 million pounds. So maybe they're not going to be able to turn that down. But at that kind of price tag, it also seems a little bit more than I think Liverpool would really ideally like to be spending, given that they do have to bring in 3 or 4 players in that position. In any case, I don't think that Mason Mount is likely to come to Arsenal, but I'm not ruling it out. So he's in at number 4. At number 3, I really love this player. He's 27 years old. He has 1 year left to run on his Lazio contract. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, another player in that Xhaka mould, but with a few years on Xhaka and hungry to win something at the highest level. He has been an outstanding servant to Lazio, and although he's not often talked about, or he's not the high-profile name, that he's 3rd on this list for a reason. Definitely somebody that I could see us bringing in for a bargain, relatively, the sort of 40, 50 million pound mark that's been talked about. He does have that year to go on his contract, but it seems like, he's definitely off. He would suit us. Bit of a risk in terms of perhaps temperament, but then, if you're looking to an understudy to Granit Xhaka, look at the great work that Granit Xhaka's done on his temperament. And at 27 years old, Milinkovic-Savic is a player who has excellent on the ball, great goal involvements, and a really strong, robust midfielder that's difficult to win the ball from. So I would personally like to see that, and he's number 3 on my chart. Number 2, Moses Caicedo. Now look, Moses Caicedo in the game against Manchester United, it was almost like he was being put in the shop window with a special tag suited for Arsenal. Why do I say that? He played him at right back. Moses Caicedo, I've watched quite a lot of. Whilst In the January transfer window, I thought it was a ridiculous price tag. Obviously, I've watched him with more interest since then. There is a hell of a player in there. He is exactly the kind of midfielder that would fit really well. The only question mark here is the price tag. It looks likely that Brighton will want something, could be pushing the kind of Jude Bellingham money. And then if we can't afford to pay that for Jude Bellingham, then I don't see why we would suddenly be stumping up for Moses Caicedo. But Moses Caicedo could well be on the move this summer. And at number 1, I've done a video about this. Up until the last week or so, I thought this was nailed on, bolting on. West Ham's Declan Rice. What a player. If you're in any doubt about this, I think I'm prepared to play the long game with you. In my opinion, Declan Rice, having started his career at centre-back, he's a great ball winner. His goal involvement's criticised by Graham Souness. I think that's totally wide of the mark. I think it's just where he plays. He has weighed in with a couple of goals since the criticisms around that. But West Ham apparently have said they will only sell him to a Champions League side, which could well be Liverpool. I do think they're going to overtake Man United, who are crumbling quite badly at the moment. I think the news that Man City are interested in Declan Rice, as we discussed, they have players leaving this summer. Would Declan Rice fit into Man City? I think he would. I think that Man City have been keeping their powder dry on all transfers because I think, honestly, there is a world in which Pep Guardiola wins the Champions League and leaves. There is a world in which, there is a total rebuilding job that needs doing there, and they kind of see this as a perfect time for him to go off and finally get to manage in South America, which he's wanted to do. Nothing but pure speculation from me. Declan Rice, I think, would fit into Man City's team really well, but if he wants to stay in London, he's friends with a lot of the Arsenal players. If there's some negotiation possible, if West Ham are holding on to this hope that they get 120 million, certainly their position is going to have been enhanced by the fact that they're staying in the Premier League. Hopefully, they even win this Confederations, or whatever it's called. I don't honestly know what it's called. Conference, Europa Conference League, whatever. I'd love to see West Ham win it. I have nothing against West Ham whatsoever, and it'd be great to see a team like that go out there and win a European trophy. Maybe we can start winning that quite regularly, and Tottenham might qualify for it next season so they can take over the baton from West Ham. Declan Rice for me is the number 1 transfer. It seems like it's the number 1 transfer that's wanted by the club. He's the marquee signing. Whether or not we would pay 120 million, Martin Keown on TalkSport has come out and said he doesn't think that we would go to that kind of money. For me, I think if we're going to spend, if we were looking to spend 80 million on Moses Caicedo in the summer, I don't think it's a big reach to get to the 120 million. Declan Rice's wages would not be exorbitant unless, a Chelsea or a City come in for him and start turning his head with that kind of offer. I think he has his heart set on joining Arsenal. He is my number 1 link, but hopefully you found that interesting, and hopefully you agree or disagree enough to leave a comment. And if you've watched to this point, well, come on. How much more time does it take to click the subscribe button? Get on with it and do that. I have taken more than enough time on this. There's other videos I want to do, including a feature-length, first of its kind for my channel, The Tottering. It's a horror story about a caretaker that goes mad. I'm not going to add too much more to it. There will be a preview coming up. But if you like this video, click like, tell your friends. And as I said, subscriptions mean everything to a channel my side. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I love to hear your opinions, and I reply to every comment you leave. So do that right now. And until I see you again, be lucky and lots of love.